Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I'm joined by the beautiful Orianna Nichelle. Nichelle, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing very well. If I could stop calling you Orianna Nicole, I would be a whole lot better.
You
But it's one of those things where I am an idiot, and so I'm very habit based. So, how are you doing today, love?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm working on cosplays for October. So I was out going and getting a few things for this week's to build my prop and I'm just vibing with spooky season. It's my favorite time of the year, so I'm all in good spirits.
We are so back. I love it
We
right
are
now.
so back. I went to a corn maze pumpkin patch yesterday and I was like this is it. We are so back.
I did see a lot of videos featuring corn.
Corn, yeah. I was like, I couldn't help but hear, it's corn, it's corn. And I was like, ran out to the corn. I was like, it's corn.
That's
I
so
also
amazing.
really love corn, so I was real stoked.
I mean,
There were some really massive ones, and I was like, how would you know if one was just missing? This big
they're
giant
never gonna
corn.
know.
They would never
Never,
know.
ever gonna know.
Nope.
Get a little bit of just take that, get a little bit of tahine, put some butter on there. We're good to go.
Or just make a nice elote out of it.
Ugh, don't threaten me with a good time.
Oh, that's like one of
um,
my favorite dishes.
oh, I completely understand why.
It's just
Um,
so
but
good.
before we talk about why you are here,
Yeah.
Oriana, I would like for people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. You grew up watching horror movies with your mom, always hunting for the scariest movies at Blockbuster. And it's funny, I've talked about this before. When we were young, I'm much older than you, but when we were younger, like horror, like YouTube for us was walking up and down the aisle at the video store trying to find the scariest cover. Like that was YouTube for us.
That's all of my memories at like Blockbuster or Hollywood was just scanning the horror section and like this cover looks cool or this cover. Like you already knew like the big names like Jason, Freddy, and Chucky at the time, but just like at you're just searching for that next scary film. And for me, it was always possession films because that's a lot of what like freaked my mom out, but I loved slashers. I liked that style.
Sure. I think the younger we are, and I'm not trying to call anybody dumb or anything like that by any stretch, but when we're young, I don't think we can completely grasp. I don't think our brain is fully functioned enough to be able to grasp the heaviness of a possession film all the way. And how truly, I mean, a slasher, you can watch at any age and be like, yeah, this guy's killing people. This is scary. But to really, truly comprehend and understand everything that's happening in a possession film, even at, as an adult, it's hard to completely comprehend and understand these things.
Yeah, I just remember them not like because I watched The Exorcist with my mom and grandma, and I remember not being like super like afraid, but the possession film that freaked me out was actually when I was a teen and saw was The Exorcism of Emily Rose. And it was a lot of Jennifer Carpenter's like acting was just phenomenal in that film where you really felt and her movements were just so creepy. And there's a lot of scenes in that freaked me out, but growing up, felt like I just didn't really grasp that whole like idea of like devil and God, and this is actually supposed to be really freaky.
Right. Well, and like you said, PG-13, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, still absolutely terrifying to this day.
It's just that bed scene where it's just like getting pressed in. I was like, no, first off,
Yeah.
my safe space is the bed underneath the cover so the
Hmm.
monsters don't get me. Because,
Yeah, it's this
everybody's
weird
like, don't look
barrier
under
that
the
they
bed.
can't get through?
Yeah, or I still to this day, even no matter how hot it is, sleeping, I have to sleep with a blanket covering my feet
Hmm.
because I'm like, I don't like any limbs being out.
And you can
You
tell we're
learn.
all fans of horror movies if we feel that way.
Yeah.
But you did study theater, learned
Hmm.
everything from design to special effects, makeup, and you applied what you learned for your cosplay.
Hmm.
And I absolutely love Freaky Flick Friday, letting everybody know what's coming out, where it's available at. It's amazing. That's actually the very first thing I saw you do before I had gotten in contact with you. And I think it's a brilliant idea. Every Friday, just letting everybody know, hey, this is what's coming out this week. This is where you can see it. This is where you can check it out. Since the TV Guide channel doesn't exist anymore, that's a perfect way for us to figure this kind of stuff out. So, what gave you the desire and the drive to start Freaky Flick Friday?
So I actually got to tell Josh this. I don't know if you found Josh on TikTok, but he was talking about this lesser known to be originals, and it was a film that I hadn't heard of. So I went and I looked on Letterbox and then did the whole like filters of like release dates and this, and found all of these indie horror movies that were being released. And I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't heard anyone talk about these. I hadn't heard like much of anything. And so it was around the time where TikTok was really pushing series and like 10-minute videos and things like that. And I really wanted to figure out a series that I can do weekly that would put my love for horror. And I know that other people have like love for horror, and just kind of put that in the focal front. And being that I grew up in film, doing indie film, I really wanted to help promote those films that don't have the budget to pay for big marketing, or and just put someone on, at least some new eyes onto this film that they've probably never heard of. And I enjoy it so much. I love the hunt of finding that new horror film of the week. And and I have to check back my list every few days, because with indie films, you really don't know what is going to be released until maybe a couple of days before. And it's like those that like minimal marketing is why I really wanted to create my series, was to just help promote these films and also share it with big budget films, so that like it's all on an equal platform for people, and just for horror fans to be like, that sounds interesting, I'm going to put that on the list to watch this weekend. And kind of like that blockbuster feel of going to the like blockbuster every weekend with my mom and trying to find a new film to watch.
Well, and like you said, they don't have the marketing budgets, they don't have the promotional budgets to be able to do this type of stuff. So, especially one of the best things now about social media, whether it be, YouTube, TikTok, X, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, is word of mouth. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
best type of advertisement now. And when we have a community that's as tight knit and loving as the horror community, we love watching indie film, because when you watch an indie film, they're not in it for money, and they're not in it to be, millionaires or kings of the world. They're doing it because they love this project so much. And I mean, you got people that are acting in these indie films that are also being a key grip, that are also doing color grading, that are also
Mm-hmm.
doing soundtracks, that are doing scores. Everybody, it's like a joint effort in indie film, and everybody is so willing and so just ready to go and do everything they possibly can to make these films work. And I think that's why indie horror especially is so special, because everybody tries so damn hard to put out the absolute best product they can, with making money being the furthest thing from their mind.
Oh yeah, we have a film Portland Horror Film Festival here. Is basically indie films. It's a whole horror film festival around indie films. And that's where I've gotten to see Invisible Raptor. I've gotten to see Dream Eater that's coming out. These indie films where I've seen so much creative, like, work being done by these filmmakers with a small budget. One of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite films from last year was called Did I? And it was about having dissociative identity disorder, but without making the main character be like this true like that villain. And because a lot of research, it was a student film final project that they had for $10,000 was their budget. Everything, the set was built in her father's barn, and the family helped out, and it was one of the one of the best films of the film festival. And it just goes to show what creativity and vision goes a lot further than just big budget and throwing money at it and putting slapping CGI over, you know. One of the films I watched recently was Good Boy, and a lot of that was DIY. And oh my God, I have never been so anxious in a horror film in my entire. I was just so anxious, and I wanted it to end, but I was just so focused. And that's horror. That is a new level of horror, and they didn't have. I don't think that they did like the biggest budget and everything, but it's those simplest things, and making the audience feel unsettled is truly why I love this genre. It's so dynamic.
And I've never in my life, I don't like jump scares. Never have. Never been a fan of jump
I
scares. I
love
think
them.
lazy. Good Boy got me twice in that movie.
I
Um,
know which scene you're talking about because it got me, and I was like talking with someone earlier, and they were like, "I cursed." I was like, "Same." I was like, I couldn't anticipate it because I was so focused on Indy, and I was just
See,
like,
and it's like because there was two. I'm not going to spoil anything, but one of them is the
"Yeah,
eyeball scene, and the
mm-hmm,
other is the stairs. Those are the
yeah,
two that really, really got me. And like I said, I don't like jump scares. I've always thought they were lazy. Um, if done right,
predictable."
they can be good, but most of the time they're not. Most of the time it's lame and it's just it's just my opinion. I'm not trying to shit on anybody or the art or what they love, but to me, a lot of the times it's just a lazy way to get the audience back involved after a couple slow moments. But there's movies that are able to draw that tension out and draw that tension out and draw that tension out, like Good Boy, like The Dark and the Wicked, where they just draw this tension out for so long. So when you finally get that jump scare, it's such a good payoff because you're
Hmm.
so invested. It's not a way to pull you back in, it's a way to break you from the tension that
Yeah,
you've been feeling this whole time. It's just like, please scare me, give me a laugh, tell me to fuck off, do something. Like I need to feel something other than what I'm feeling right now in my chest. So,
yes,
and Good Boy, like I said, that absolutely nailed those two both jump scares. I looked at my wife and I was like, yeah, those were fucking awesome. Those were great.
yeah. Oh,
So
it was a great film.
Oh, loved it. Absolutely adored it. It's in my top five of the year at the moment.
Yeah.
So, obviously you're doing all these amazing things on TikTok, and I do have all of her social media links down in the description, guys. So please make sure you're giving her a follow. So that way you can become a part of that family as well. Make sure you're following on TikTok, all social medias. I promise you, you're not going to regret it. But, Oriana, in order for you to be the horror creator that you are today, horror had to start for you somewhere. So now I would like to go back to the past and talk about what got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie, and Oriana, your first horror movie was.
My first horror movie was actually Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula. At 4 years old. And the takeaways from that was I loved the aesthetic, the vampire aesthetic, but Dracula's hair reminded me of boobs. And that's my takeaway from it. And then later on was watching, um, of course, like different slashers, but the film that I love and that really just was like, oh, I like the different dynamics of film in this kind of style of movie, and that was Scream. It
Mm-hmm.
was the I thought I had it figured out. And even the beginning of this, when I first watched it, because I was young, it was terrifying. I remember the scene that was just that stuck with me is when Drew Barrymore's character is going to yell for her parents and she can't get anything out. And I just remember watching, being like, if you could just be louder, if you could just be louder, or if you could just look to the left. That in the chase scene made my heart just made me feel something. And then to follow this story along and then to figure out that, if you don't know, it's Billy and Stu, her classmates, Sydney's boyfriend and friend. And I was like, wow, it just left an impression of how diverse this genre was. And I became obsessed. I became just intrigued by slashers and horror and just all of it. And that's just
Right.
kind of where it sparked, and from there I just kept continually watching. That's where I gravitated to. That's where I wanted to watch. That's what interests me the most.
Well, and like I said, I know that you watched Bram Stoker's Dracula first, but I know that it wasn't like a huge impact. It was kind of like a thing you were watching with your mom. So would it be okay if we dove more into Scream for this?
Yeah.
Because I know that that was kind of like your first, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, Boob Head is one of my favorite things ever. Like that's amazing.
It's just I could not. I even to this day I was like, oh yeah, the vampire with the boobs on his head.
Yeah. Huh. Boys living the dream. Um, so we're, obviously talking about Scream and, horror in general wouldn't be what it is today without Scream. Like, Scream is a movie that rejuvenated the horror genre, put a shot in the arm, took it from 0 to 100 at that moment. So, we know that you were young when you watched it. Do you remember about how old you were when you had seen it for the first time?
probably like I want to say like 7 or 8. So I had I feel like I had watched horror films by then. Like I had watched Nightmare on Elm Street. My mom's a huge Johnny Depp fan, so she would always put that one on. And then I remember Chucky, and my mom had porcelain dolls, and so that was fun. But the one that I was just like, I like this genre was definitely Scream. And it was just love. I don't know how else
It's
to just, it was just I liked it. It was, and I know people want to say it's not. I've gotten a lot of comments where people are like, "Oh, it's not true horror," because it's, basically like satire of horror. But like, how is it not horror? We have a slasher, we have a killer, we have a deranged teenagers that are going after their classmates. One's doing it kind of because his best friend's doing it, and the other one has
a little bit.
severe mommy and daddy issues. Like, it's one of those that it really, I feel like it put a lot more people onto the genre, and I feel like it's a good kind of gateway. It's it's something I would show someone who is just wanting to get into the genre. And I'm like, here is what it has to offer. Here's what, if you like this, here's more. It's not something that is it has its scary moments, but it's not overly scary, and it's easy for newer horror fans who are interested to get into and to get into
Right.
the horror genre.
I just want to add real quick that I think gatekeepers suck. Like, it's the
I
dumbest shit I've ever. Scream's not a horror movie. Like, yeah, bro, that's like saying, I don't know, a hamburger isn't meat. I don't know. Like, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like,
I have never understood it. I have never understood gatekeeping. I'm like, why would you not want your favorite genre to do well and people to talk and be interested? You're gonna get more conversation. I don't know. Maybe it's just the people who don't like talking about films. I like discussing like back and forth, like, oh, did you see that scene? And when they did this, and then it like ripped in, like that's what I love. Or do you think that, or like playing off of what you thought that something meant, and those, it's a very layered for me genre compared
right.
to others.
Well, and I think the reason that I mean, like, if you're talking about scary movie, then yeah, I can kind of see how you could be like, look, this isn't really a horror movie; it's a spoof. But yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Scream is satire. Yeah, it's meta. So is fucking Wes Craven's New Nightmare. It's still a fucking horror movie. So is
Yep.
Jason Lives. It's still a horror movie. Like, get like people just have to bitch. Like, people always need something to bitch about, and if you like something, they're gonna find the reason to bitch about it, and it's
Yep.
so damn annoying. So we kind of touched on it a little bit, but what was the scene from Scream that affected you the most?
It was the beginning, definitely the beginning for me of that, like I said, the chase of her running and getting loose, and then him coming and just stabbing her. That was the scene where I was just like, go, 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 go. And I just, that, it left me unsettled. And then when we fast forward to her being in the tree, that's where I felt like, oh, this is very uncomfortable. Like, up until that point, I don't think I really watched anyone in that situation, being hung from a tree. So, at least for me, that's the opening scene is what left the impression. And then what continued to keep me interested was just trying to figure out, well, who is Ghostface? Who could do this?
Everybody's a suspect!
Right. And I think too the fact of like her getting found by her parents. Like
So,
that's another scene where it's just like, oh man, come on. Is this really
well,
what's going on? Like,
even when her mom's like picks up and she's like, Casey, and she's like having to listen to her daughter be murdered and then hung up, like, but she's not realizing what she's listening to is just demented. It's unhinged.
it's gross. It really is. And it's like I can't as a parent, I couldn't imagine ever going through something like that. That's the worst thing in the world that you could ever wish on anybody.
Yeah. I think that I think when we if we actually think about it from those point of views, like this parent is listening to their child just, be murdered, that's when it becomes true horror. That's when it's scary. But if you're just
Mhm.
like, oh well, it's a movie, well, it's like you're desensitized to it, a little bit. But it's truly horrific. This
Whether
opening
it's a movie
scene.
or not, like that's the point. The point of horror is to make us uncomfortable. That's why horror has always been political. It's always been up on current issues because that's the point. horror is supposed to make you uncomfortable. And that's why it's such an amazing genre, because it really does all these things that people talk about. It makes you think, it makes you uncomfortable, especially with current events and things like that. I think
Hmm.
that that's why horror is so brilliant, has such a dedicated following. That's why you don't get rom-com con, but you get horror con, because we are so involved in the genre, and there's so many loving people that are just so invested in what horror does to us. So we talked about what scene affected you the most, but what would you say your favorite scene from the OG Scream is?
Oh, my favorite. It's got to be the reveal. It's the reveal after Stu, and and it's the kitchen, the kitchen scene, the typical, oh, you hit me in the head, you dick, or with the phone, and
Fucking hit me with a phone, dick!
that scene, because the reveal for me is like, I already thought Billy was dead when I
Right.
first watched this. And so I was like, obviously it's not him. And then I was like, it could be Randy, because Randy's like a little obsessed with Sydney. And then Stu was like, potentially, but then when it's he comes out and he's like, no, we're all a little mad. I'm like, oh, guess we are. That's like my favorite, because it's just like, that's where the bomb drops. That's where it's like it all clicks, where it's like, oh, you planned this whole thing
We all go a little mad sometimes.
No, Billy!
this whole time.
See, and it's funny because this is one scene about Scream that really drives me fucking nuts. Um, I love this movie. I really do. And I think people forget how great that twist is. When we first find out that Billy's one of the killers, because when we were younger, obviously we thought he was dead. He died. We just watched him get stabbed. He's dead. But this is a scene that drives me nuts. Okay, because at this point, after Billy dies, we think that there's one killer, and Sydney's in the van with Kenny, and she's watching the screen, and she sees Randy on the couch, and she sees Ghostface coming up to him. She's like, "Oh my God, Randy!" And she runs up to the house. And then Randy and Stu come out, and she's like, "You know what? Fuck you both." And she shuts the door. And I'm like, "Sydney, you went up there to save Randy. You know he's not in on it. Like, what are you doing?" You're like, "Randy, it could be." You know what? Never mind. Fuck you anyway. And I'm like, "You literally went there to save him, and then you threw him out of the house. Like, what
Sid
are
was
you
like,
doing,
nah, I'm
Sid?"
done.
So
She was just went full on like, no, I'm gonna save myself, actually, goodbye. Like,
yep. She was like, "Yeah, about that, Randy. You dropped this. See ya."
right.
You know.
She was like,
So
deuces.
every time I watch this now, I'm like, "Damn it, Sydney, that was such a shitty move." Like, she's just like,
I never
"Fuck you
really
both."
put two and two together. Like, she really did go out there to save Randy, and then was like, actually, no, fuck you too.
Yeah, yeah. She was like, "Oh, you're okay now? Good. I hope you die." And shuts the
Right?
door, because at this point we think there's still, we haven't really grasped the fact there could be two killers yet. And
No, yeah.
we watched him kill Billy, and then we see him coming up on Randy. And so it's one of those things where you're like, okay, well, it's got to be Stu. And then when you see them both together, you're like, oh, it's Stu. And then she's like, fuck you both. And I'm like, oh, you just killed Randy. That's not
You
fair.
just left him out there.
Yeah, you dickhead. Just kidding, Sid. I love you. You're my favorite final girl. But we're talking about Scream and how impactful this movie is and how special it is, especially to you. We know what scene affected you the most, but what would you say your favorite scene from Scream was?
I like when Sydney actually pulls the twist on him, on Ghostface, when she calls him and she comes and stabs him outside of, the closet. I
Umbrella?
love it's just that final girl moment where it's like, no, actually you didn't get me, and flips the tables. I think that's where, at least for me, Sid became my like final girl. Like, I was like, okay, you're not just like running scared, you're actually fighting back.
And I think that obviously Sydney is my favorite final girl of all time. The only person that's ever came close to me is Jess Bradford from Black Christmas '74. If we could have gotten a real continuation of her story and she could have been in a couple sequels, maybe, I think she would have absolutely topped the list. And when it comes to the most badass final girls, to me, it's Jess Bradford. Like, Jess is just the cream of the crop to me. But Sydney, you can't root against her, man. Like, you can't ever root against Sid. She's so fucking great. Um, and Sid,
She's
at the
she's
time of
shelled
the,
out every time though.
oh, for sure.
Like,
Um, she's one of those final girls that's just like, look, I don't give a fuck who you are under that mask. I'm gonna beat your ass. Like, friend, stalker, family member, don't care. Ass is grass.
We definitely saw that after the third with her, because after
Mhm.
she was like, all right, I've just, killed my brother who's been chasing me. I'm good. I'm solid after this. And so anytime she's been faced, she kind of just is like, no, I got this,
Mhm.
basically.
I've done this already and better than you can do it.
Right.
Um, so now at the time of recording, we are 6 films deep in the Scream franchise. So whenever I talk about a franchise film, I always like to ask, the first one was your first horror movie, but what is your favorite movie in the Scream franchise? If you can't pick the first one.
If I can't pick the first one, it would probably be the second one. I really love Mickey as Ghostface. I think that he really doesn't have any connection or will to really need to be Ghostface. Everyone kind of has some connection to Sydney, or in the later films to I'm blanking on
Sam
their
and Tara.
names. Yes. So, but Mickey was the one where he just did it. And I don't know. I, the second one, it was just the one I remember being super excited when it was coming out, because I loved the first one so much. So when it was like, oh, we're in college now, and that whole like theater, I'm also probably because it was had a theater moment in there, and I was like, that's a little that's a little homage. But yeah, I think Scream 2 is probably, it goes 1, 2, and 3 at least for me. The
And
third one,
I can't disagree. The only one that I don't really like in the franchise, and everybody's like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" I'm not a fan of Scream 4. I don't know what it is about that movie. I don't get into it.
I
I
could tell
can't
you
dig
what
it.
it is. So during that time when that film, because that's my least favorite one of the franchise.
I like you more and more
I
every time you
cannot
talk.
stand the I'm Emma Roberts in that role. I don't particularly like. I don't know if maybe someone else played Jill. I would have liked the character a little bit more. But at the time, that cast was on a bunch of CW shows like Pretty Little Liars, 90210. So that's kind of what that film felt like for me. Was like a CW style cast, and that film felt very less like the Scream I know and more
Sure,
like a CW Scream. Like
sure.
when they had MTV had the TV show. That's kind of what it felt like. So, it's just it's my least favorite. Now these 5 and 6 definitely feel different than the first 3, but I appreciate them more than Scream 4.
Hmm.
I'm
And
still gonna watch Scream 4 regardless. It's it's part
I
of
don't
the
think it's god
fandom.
awful, but I think the reason why it irritates me so bad is because I hate fake outs. I don't like them. I don't like dream sequences. I know I sound really shitty during this. There is a lot I do like, I promise. But when you start the movie off with 2 fake outs right in a row, I was like, what in the fuck? Like, we're 20 minutes in and now I'm getting pissed. Like, just let me see something really happen. So I think that to me is why I was so salty about that. But and then there's just a lot about that movie that I can't get into. So, you know, talking about Scream and what that means to you, which is a pretty good segue for this because here for a second, I do want to throw you a little bit of a curveball. My little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you. What's your
Okay.
favorite scary movie, Oriana? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
Of all time. Oh my God. That is like the hardest question because I have so many, so many that I like love and adore. And I can't pick Scream. I can't pick
Nope,
Scream.
nope, can't pick Scream on this one.
For me, it's gonna be 28 Days Later.
Okay.
Zombie films, zombie genres are something that I don't know, it's they get to me. I It's the fast and it's the rage zombies, and I remember being really freaked out when I first watched that film, and it's still to this day one that I constantly rewatch and I love talking about. So definitely 28 Days Later.
Were you a fan of the new 28 Years Later?
I was actually. I went I had to sit on it though, because I was a little bit of a hater about the ending, because I was just going in with that like I want it to be like 28 days later like mindset, and then when I let the film and settle and me think about it and talking about like the ending, I was like, this is genius writing. And I really did want to see the virus evolve, and that's exactly what I got to see. So I was a fan, and I am definitely looking forward to Bone Temple. So I'm definitely stoked on that one.
I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw that ending, like I literally looked at Ashley and I was like, I feel like this was written by Marlon Wayans. Like it felt like I went into a scary movie scene, and the alpha made me feel very insecure. But besides that, I thought that I think it was, it's fine. I wasn't a huge. I mean, and again, I know you love the movie, and that's awesome. That's incredible. I'm so glad you do. If there's ever a movie I don't like, I really still hope there's an audience for that film because I would never want somebody's art to go unloved. But the 28 movies never really did much for me. Like I said, the first one was fine. I enjoyed that one. And I loved the concept of even though we're running from these rage-filled zombies, you finally think you find, safety and the military, and then they turn out to be worse than what you're actually, running from. Um, and so like I thought they did a lot of very clever things in that. I thought it was very smart, very well done. But at the same time, I I don't know. It's they've never done much for me. 28 weeks is actually probably my least favorite of the bunch. Um, but
I've heard so many different
I
opinions about 28 weeks.
yeah. I mean, I'll be
I
there
feel
for
like,
Bone Temple the minute I'll be seated the opening
hmm
night. Bone Temple also is like the greatest name ever. Like that's just the Bone Temple. I'm like, okay. So you got me the Alpha in part one. Now I get the Bone Temple. Oh, okay.
I
I see what
know.
they're doing here. 28. Um, but yeah, I'm very excited to see the direction they go because they did play with some unique things. Like the effect. And I try to remember because I am definitely a traditionalist. So I always got to keep reminding myself they're not zombies. They're
Yeah.
not zombies. It's a virus. So they can still reproduce. They can still make love. They can still, eat and do all these other things because it's a rage virus. And so like when I saw like the pregnant one and like so in that moment, I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? Like because again, traditionalist. I'm like, hey,
hmm
zombies, cool, yeah. But then I'm like, they're fucking what? Like what? So I did kind of get thrown off by that a little bit. But the more obviously, I sit on it and common sense starts to sink in. It's like, Ken, these aren't zombies. This is a rage virus. This is a completely different thing. It makes you appreciate it a little more. I like you, having sat on it for a little while, I think I appreciate it more now than I did on initial viewing because I'm able to digest it a little more. And there's a lot of very beautiful shots. Um, and the relationship of father and son, and like there's just so many great things about this film. But when I first saw it, I was very, very disappointed with all the stuff they did, in my opinion, with the zombies. But then the more I sit down, I'm like, remember, Ken, these are infected. They're not zombies. So I definitely do have. I think that's why the whole thing for me is hard because I'm like, zombie, zombie. And I keep wanting to think zombie, and I got to get, fresher than that. So I do appreciate the fact that 28 Days, I think that's the first time I've ever had anybody say that's their favorite horror film.
Yeah, it's just for me, like Night of the Living Dead, and I also love Dawn of the Dead. The remake, I think it's one of my favorite remakes for up at least for remakes go, but zom just something about the like I know they're not like the undead, but just the rage virus and how it's kind of amplifying things that humans already have inside
Right.
themselves and making them act a certain way. I think that's why I like it so much. And then also it has nothing to do with the film, but the soundtrack. I love the soundtrack in the way that the music incorporates and builds up the intensity for it. That's, I mean, I just all around like the film is just for me at least. I look for what I look for is like, can I watch this movie for like if apocalypse happened and I had one movie to watch and it wasn't Scream.
No, see, and it's funny just how we can all watch the same movie and have different opinions. I'm a huge, huge fan of M. Night Shyamalan's Trap, and no one else on the fucking planet liked that movie but
I
me.
didn't mind that movie. I thought
Loved it.
like I Josh Hartnett in horror is like I did chuckle at the fact when he was shirtless and I was like, "Okay, I see you doing it for the ladies." But I liked that film. I liked him with the switch that he did trying to be normal and then like get into his like killer mode and then get back into like father mode. Like I liked it. I liked the like music concert. I know people didn't
hmm
really dig that, but I
I fucking
dug
love
it.
that movie. I don't know what it is. Like, there's movies that everybody on the planet loves that I don't. Like, Trick or Treat. I'm not a fan of Trick or Treat. I love Sam. I wish I could get more Sam, but I'm not a huge fan of the film. And then there's movies that like nobody on the planet loves that I do. Like Trap was one of them. I remember when that came out, like nobody liked it, and it got universally panned. And I was like, did I see the same movie everybody else did? Because I fucking love this. Like this movie was absolutely incredible. So yeah, I think that it's why as long as you're not being an asshole about it, that's why the horror community is so special. Because, we have the ability to love and not love the exact same movies that we're watching. And like I said, as long as you're respectful about it and you don't try to get me to watch The Exorcist 2 ever again, we'll be
Oh
just
my
fine.
god. Or
Like
three.
that's you don't like 3?
No, I just meant like, or I just the Exorcist 3. I think I watched it too. Like, I think I watched it after the second one, so I already was already tuned out because it was a marathon, and I just never went back to it.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, The Exorcist 3 is not only my favorite in that franchise, it is in probably my top 10 favorite films of all time.
All right, I will
And
rewatch it this Halloween season because I haven't seen it in probably since I watched it in middle school with my best friend.
for me, please do that.
All right.
Um, because my thing is like I had watched The Exorcist as a kid, and The Exorcist was always very taboo for me because that's the only my mom and dad owned a video store when I was growing up called Downtown Video. And so I was around
Lucky.
videos all the time. And when I had watched The Exorcist, it was always taboo for me because that's the only movie my mom ever shut off. She was like, "Nope, we're not doing this." We got to the crucifix scene, and she was like,
Oh,
"Nope, too much." And I didn't even know what was going on. I was like, "She's stabbing herself." I watched Jason do that shit all the time. She was like, "Trust me, you don't." Um, and then like when I remember watching The Exorcist 2 afterwards, like maybe I was probably 12 or 13 when I had seen The Exorcist 2, and I was like, "Oh, this is awful. Like I'll never ever." And then they were like, "Well, there's a part 3." And I was like, "I don't care. The Exorcist 2 is the worst thing I've ever seen. Like to this day, it's my least favorite movie of all time." And then we were going to do an Exorcist franchise ranking on the channel. I was like, "You know what? I got to go watch this movie now." And I watched it, immediately bought the Blu-ray, immediately bought the 4K, watched every special feature. Like I love The Exorcist 3 and the amazing things that they were able to bring to this franchise. And what I love the most about it is you don't even have to watch 2. The Exorcist 3 is a spiritual sequel to The Exorcist. It ties right into The Exorcist, right where The Exorcist ends. This one picks up a couple years later with the same story of Father Karras jumping out the window and what happened after Father Karras jumped out that window. And it's everything. It's a slasher. It's a possession movie. It's supernatural. It's a crime. It's like a crime drama. It's everything I love wrapped up into one package. So I will stop gushing over The Exorcist 3 because this episode is about you and not me. But when you do watch it again, please text me, call me, send carrier pigeon, whatever you have to do to let me know what you thought of it because I'm very excited to see what you thought.
I'm so
Um,
curious now because yeah, I haven't watched it since like middle school. So and I just remember being like just out of it because I watched it after the second one because we were marathoning it and
mhm.
then just being like tuned out the entire time. But it's been, I have new lens, I have new goggles to
after
appreciate it from.
after I watched The Exorcist 3, I hated The Exorcist 2 even more. I was like, it's because of you, you asshole, that I never watched this one. If The Exorcist 2 was a person, every time we seen each other in person, we would fight. I'd be like, oh, there's that motherfucker Exorcist 2 right there. You damn
That's me
nasty
in Scream
Reagan, you son
4.
of a bitch. So, again, I really do, Oriana, want to thank you for taking the time out to do this. I'm a big fan of yours. I love what you do. And to be able to share that with my audience, to me, is very special. And I know I said this at the beginning, guys, but all of her links are down in the description. So please make sure you are following her on all her social media platforms to become a part of that family as well. Now, I always
I
end this with
go
the same
then.
question, Oriana. We're going to bounce back to Scream, and what we're going to do is rank this movie on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. We're not being critics. All we're doing is ranking Scream on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So, 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Oriana, what would your ranking of Scream be?
Oh, 4.5. Four and a
Ooh,
half.
all the way up there.
Yeah, it's definitely because it was the one that I know I was just like, oh shit, this is freaking me out. Just that beginning with the chasing and being like, wishing I can just go back and help her and help. That was the one that left its lasting impression. When films that give me 5, I would probably put The Exorcism of Emily Rose up there because that freaked me the fuck out. But 4.5 because it left that impression, and it's that one that for me that first viewing is why I wanted to rewatch it and rewatch it because we ended up owning it on VHS. I still have it actually.
Yeah.
Um, but I would always just put it in, even though I knew who who Ghostface was. I wanted to go look for the little hidden eggs that they left for us throughout the film. It's just one that made me feel things.
And there's a lot of little Easter eggs to look for throughout that film too.
So
I
many.
love it. Love it. Well, again, guys, we are at the end of the third act. The credits are about to roll and the curtains are about to drop. But before that happens, make sure one last time you're following Orianna on all her social media accounts, and you don't even have to go looking for them. All you gotta do is click right down here, and you're there. So, Orianna, please don't go anywhere, my friend. I do have a couple more questions for you. Everyone else, if you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. It does help build the channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Those
Yeah,
links are in the description as well. But until
do
next
it
time,
now. Do it
keep
right
talking
now.
horror. Yes, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.